I'll pass it on.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kalani Bullard. I'm the owner of Hawaiian Herbal Health Center and Green Alternatives. And we've been in business since day one, 2008. So we've been through all the changes, the marathon changes, daily changes, so we've been through it all. And so we'll pass it next.
Aloha.
Okay, so Kalani?
How you guys all doing? Yeah, I see a lot of happy faces there. Well, first off, I just want to say thank you to Senator Will and Representative Bellotti. They did a lot, and let's give them one more round of, come on. There's a couple of people here from the mainland that I would like to actually say hello to and just kind of acknowledge. We've got Bob from Incredibles from Colorado, and we got Brian, I'm sorry, go ahead. We've got Brian from Washington, and he owns a very, very, very large entity up there, doing very well. And we've got Chloe from Denver as well. She owns, manages Clover University, and she also does a lot of merit applications. So for those that are looking for help, you can come and see Chloe.
It's a very big issue.
And there's only 124 dispensaries in Arizona, but in Colorado there's thousands, so those issues are very real.
Many different educational organizations are enacting CME credits for medical professionals. I own Cloverleaf University. We're approved by the Department of Higher Education in Colorado. We haven't written those type of programs yet, but we are working with other entities that are the Medical Marijuana University and Patients at a Time, who actually wrote the first CME accredited endocannabinoid system for doctors and nurses so they can learn how to prescribe to patients. So there are medical professionals that are writing these type of educational programs, and I just met a group in New York as well, medical marijuana doctors is what they're called, and they're also teaching CME.
I want to touch down on probably the biggest thing that everyone asks. How do I get into a medical marijuana dispensary? It's kind of there's a lot of pros and cons that come with it. And we got into it, unfortunately, in 2008 when it was the wild, wild west. And when we started up in 2009, there weren't that many industry regulations at the time. I mean, anybody could get in if you had the money. There wasn't no seed to sale tracking system at the time.
That came directly from the DEA. The DEA called Washington and said, "Do you even know how many plants are registered in the state?" And 30 seconds later, we pulled up a report and said, "Yes, there are currently 682,000 plants registered in the state of Washington." This was as of half a year ago. Do you know how many pounds of product has gotten into the hands of consumers? Why, yes, we do. Here you go. So now that Washington is proving that a state system can work, no state now wants to be the last state without one. And so Hawaii has actually already written that into the regulations. So not only are the licensees required to utilize an electronic seed to sale system, so you can't do what the guy in California did and just keep a spreadsheet. You actually have to use the seed to sale system as a business. The Department of Health is required to secure a state tracking system. What does that mean for you? That means you need to choose a business seed to sale system that will integrate and supply data to the state monitoring system. And you want that system to have a one-to-one relationship. If you move plant 1, 2, 3 from the veg room to the flower room, or if you harvest plant 4, 5, 6, that data, the moment you enter that in your business system, needs to also be reflected in the state system. So the moment you move plant 1, 2, 3 from veg to flower, if 5 minutes later someone from the Department of Health knocks on your door and says, "Hey, random inspection," according to my state report here on my tablet, that was updated as of the moment I walked through the door, you should have 400.
So only a dispensary back then for us, I want to speak about how it evolved from then to now. And back then, if I had to do it all over again, I probably wouldn't have. Honestly, I probably would have waited to something like now, where you have politicians backing it up and you have a lot of consultants helping each other in the industry. Because 5 years ago, it was really hard. It was really hard to even get up. every day there was a change. Every day there was a new law. So it was constantly a marathon race, trying to jump over hoops. One day you think you've done it. The next day you get a letter from the MMED, hey, we got a 70-30 coming up. And what is a 70-30? You know, so it's like, hey, you know, you got to be able to grow 70 of your own and 30% you can outsource. So I think the way that we actually have our bill, and Representative Bellotti had mentioned that, you know, there has been a lot of criticism on what our bill is, HB 21. But I got to say, let me just tell you, coming from the experience side, I like to think that Hawaii soon will be the standard, will be what a lot of people actually jump back to follow. So back to the question. This is the favorite question that I always get. And again, I'm just coming from the experience side.
One of the top questions that I like to say it's always the top because
it's nonstop. The question is, why do you want to get into a medical marijuana dispensary? And you know the top two answers that I always hear, one, it's lucrative. There's a lot of money. Let's face it, a lot of people are in it for the money, right? So that's one of the top answers. The second one is, well, I'm a caregiver, and now I can grow legally. Well, that's true, but Representative Bellotti already put it out there that, let me just tell you guys something, growing 14 plants, 7 plants, it's a day and night when you're growing 6,000 plants. And if you have never been in a perpetual system where you are, your life and your savings is dependent on how well you harvest and how well your system is accurate to the T, you're going to find out that 6,000 plants is very hard. Now, some of these guys here in town, like Brian, they're doing over 6,000 plants. And we were doing 13,000 plants in Denver. And even that was very hard. Tried to keep it from having mold, trying to keep it where your plants aren't dying, and trying to find the right humidity level, and it's a nightmare. So one of the things that I want to talk about is lucrative. You know, the money we all know is there. But for me, the answer that I never get, that should be number one instead of lucrative to the question I ask is, it should be about the patients. Because we already know that this business is all lucrative if you do it right. But if you put your heart first before the greed, think about this. There's a lot of patients that are dying. One of the main reasons that I got into the situation here and being in the business is because my mom had lung cancer. And I was living in Denver. We was in full operation. And I was sending things because I was sacrificing for my mom. And do you know that I told her, do not let the doctor know that I'm giving you cannabis oil. Well, in 6 months, on her last visit, the doctor said, I can't understand it. It's, your cancer cells are no longer spreading. It stopped. Till this day, she's clean. Nothing. Yeah. So I went from that first answer of my heart was about lucrative. It was about the money. It was about, wow, we can really make some money. Yeah, of course. But now my heart is really for the patients, because if you can work in that fashion, you would understand that your business will even become more successful before you put it to the money. So a couple of things I want to talk about that people's been asking me is the pros. What are the pros and cons of owning a dispensary? And I really want to make this clear, is it's not all the glamour that you read about in Google. Because a lot of us here, let's just face it, Hawaii is still new. And we have a lot of great consultants from the mainland. We have a lot of great people that do have knowledge. Now, the biggest thing as far as the lucrative part is that it takes a lot of money to get into this business. Hawaii is the most expensive place to start any business, period. Not alone now, medical marijuana. How many of you, agree to that? Yes, yes. We got 38 cents a kilowatt for electricity. So people always ask me, Kalani, what do you think about warehouse? I'm looking for a warehouse. So I just want to get into that. Is that warehouse, it's great, but it costs a couple millions just to build one. And now you got to think about the overhead, the expenses. You got to think about the electricity bill. You got to think about a lot of that versus, I always say, why not think about a greenhouse? We're Hawaii. Aren't we about saving energy? Let's use what God has given us. We've got great sun, great weather. Why not go? I get, and it always leads back to, well, you know, we're going to make a lot of money. No, let me tell you guys something. The way it works on a lucrative side is that, and Representative Bullard already kind of reached out to that, about having a good group. If you do not have a group that are experienced, you may not last, and I hate to say this, you may not last the first year. And the reason why I say that is because you're going to spend $5 to $7 to $8 million depending on what system and what kind of facility or retail store you're purchasing or leasing. And then you're going to have to count on your grower who has never grown 6,000 plants perpetually in cycles, and depend on your grower to generate the income on a month-to-month basis to bring in that revenue. So I've been telling everyone that take your time, find good groups. Don't be so prideful to ask somebody, hey, listen, you know, I know you've got this experience. Will you work with us? Because a lot of what foresee that I see that's going to happen is that people are just going to get into the business very fast because they're thinking from a lucrative standpoint. But let me tell you something. In your first year, your percentage of failing in the medical marijuana business is higher than it is becoming successful because your overhead is very high. So the pros to that is, yes, it's very lucrative when you got the right team. Number two is corporate caregivers. That's what we call them. We call them corporate caregivers. Caregivers now get to commence themselves in a corporate level. And it's great. I like to say, you know, a lot of my friends from the mainland probably won't like me for this, but I like to say Hawaii has the best girls in the world. Right? Come on, guys. Yeah, I like to say that. I always represent Hawaii. But, you know, now you caregivers, you got a lot of due diligence now. You really got to start learning how to go from 14 plants to 6,000 plants. You know, that's a leap on its own. And the next thing that I want to talk about is really the generated tax revenues. You know, we've got Colorado where it's almost 30%, I believe. I'm not sure what Washington is, Brian. What is it? Yeah. So I like to think that in our bill, our revenues, our tax percentage is pretty good. You know, I like to say it's good. But will it do much? No, I would like to see our tax down the road, you know, maybe increase so we can start doing more for our state. But that's all in time. Like Senator Will Sparrow said, you know, it's phase 2. There's a lot of things that they'll be doing. So the pros to that is we'll be generating some good income for the state of Hawaii. The last thing I want to talk about is you guys are going to be in one of the most sought after business in the nation. Everybody, their auntie, their uncle, their grandma, their grandpa, everybody wants to get into the medical marijuana business. So I'm just here to tell you, yes, it's very lucrative. It's a great business. But for me, is you get to watch people that are seriously sick, dying, and know that you are giving them an alternative besides using opiates to keep them alive the following day to see their children, their grandchildren, and their family. Okay? And I've got 5 more. I'm just going to keep going, so I got to hurry up. But these are my cons. These are the things that you don't like. And I've already said a little bit, but this is really, you need to hear this. Medical marijuana business, no doubt, is a high-risk business. And a lot of people that I know are looking for investors. Now, there's a lot of investors out there that are hungry, or they've been in the business, or they're very successful business individuals. The thing about this business is sometimes your estimated projection and budget in the very beginning will be under the budget that it really is going to be. For example, we estimated that in Hawaii it's going to be anywhere between $5 to about $7 million just to get a full perpetual system. Now people come to me and say, Kalani, what is a vertical integrated system? This is where it brings legitimacy, and I'm glad HB 321 allows the vertical system, because vertical system means that you individually just can't go out and get a grow license. You have to be attached to also the hub. I like to call it the hub, which is the retail store. It's the dispensary. And what I like even more is that now we're going to incorporate a seed to sale tracking system. And this is great for the law enforcement and the attorney generals to really understand that this business is not how you think it is. This is the most corporate setting business that most business entrepreneurs nowadays, they don't want to do nothing illegally. The mindset that a lot of people still have on countries like, well, they're going to sell things out the back door, and what if their plants, their harvests have mold? What are they going to do with it? Well, we already have the fix for that. That's the reason why these two individuals right here and their colleagues said, hey, listen, Hawaii needs a seed to sale system. And I think the seed to sale system brings a lot of legitimacy for people that have concerns. And that's my thought. But it's a high risk. It's a high risk, especially for investors. Because the investors are counting on the people who are growing. 75% of the investors don't know really nothing about medical marijuana. So they're risking it all. So I just have to put it out there. Sometimes this business, you have to have very, very deep pockets. They don't stop. The last thing I want to talk about, or two more, is you always have the threat of feds knocking on your door. Now, this is the most scary thing I've ever encountered in my life. I'm a family man. I have 3 children. I'm a family man behind it all. And I remember one day thinking everything was fine until all of a sudden I heard stairs trembling, boom, 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 boom. I was like, oh man, we must have a heavy load of customers coming in this morning, And sure enough, a whole bunch of feds with their badges and everything, guns, everything, roll up into our dispensary. And it was the first time I ever seen this. I saw it on TV, I saw it on cops, and I thought, well, this will never happen to me. But sure enough, they came. Although we were very legit, they were just doing their daily routine. This is what they do. The feds come in there and they try to scare you. But it's their job. They have to find out who are the legitimate, business owners. So we always have that risk, people. And always remember, just because the state allows it, it's still a Schedule 1. And you always have to keep that in the back of your mind. And the last thing I want to talk about is having the right group. It is so hard to find the right group in this industry. To me, that's the biggest con here out of it all, is because you may have all the money in the world. That's great. But your money's not going to sit 10 hours a day taking care of those plants. Your money's not going to sit in the retail store making sure nobody in your store is diverting products out the back door or taking money. Has it happened? Yeah, it's happened to me. We didn't have all the technology that we do now.
In the state of Washington, we're running a pilot program right now with 2 or 3 credit unions who will take deposits from marijuana institutions if they're using a solid seed to sale system such as BioTrack THC. And the reason why is this: if you can track from seed to sale, you can flip that on its head and track from sale to seed. So as the business owner, you can go to the bank and say, Mr. Banker, here's a $20,000 cash deposit. Here are the reports coming out of my seed to sale system as well as the state system. I've reported every penny of this $20,000 deposit to the state. The state is taxing me on this and recognizes every penny of this deposit as legal revenues because every
So I just, I'm not here to scare you guys. I'm just here to give my advice, my expertise. I've been doing this since it began. And I believe that HB 321 is going to produce something. We're going to look back, and all the people that criticize it, it's going to finally learn this system, and they're going to say, you know what? They did a good job. So I appreciate it. Thank you.